Welcome to Franchise Empires, where aspiring entrepreneurs learn exactly what it takes to become a successful franchise owner, from one location to 10 and beyond. I'm the Wolf of Franchises.
Hey everyone, it's the Wolf. Today on the show we have Craig Avera and Rose White, the co-founders of Cali Coffee. Cali Coffee is an emerging drive-through franchise that is starting to explode and pick up steam based out of Florida. We talk all things about drive-through coffee, the culture, and how it differentiates largely from national competitors like Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Craig and Rose are only a few years into their franchise journey, but they share some wild and impressive stats about their company, about how much their customers love their brand, and how successful their franchise launch has been thus far. Craig and Rose are onto something big with building a franchise brand, and I'm excited to watch this franchise grow. I think you'll enjoy hearing from them.
The Wolf of Franchises is the CEO of Wolfpack Franchising, as well as a creator at Workweek Media. All opinions expressed by the Wolf and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Wolfpack Franchising or Workweek. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. The Wolf, Workweek, and Wolfpack Franchising may maintain positions in the franchises discussed on this podcast.
Guys, thanks for coming on. Super cool brand you have. Do you kind of want to just tell us a little bit about yourselves and like how you guys met and what you were doing professionally before you ended up founding Cali Coffee?
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks for having us. It's an honor to be here. We're super excited to talk coffee. We always love talking coffee. So I grew up in Oregon. I basically grew up drinking coffee. It's as common as water where I grew up. And, even the drive-through coffee industry itself was something that I'd kind of seen as a kid, as a teenager and growing up. And it became my first job. So I started coffee like the roots way back when and kind of fell in love with that. But where Rose and I actually met was in LA. So we moved out to California. I'll let her kind of touch on that.
I'm from Pennsylvania, but I went to USC. So I transferred from Penn State to USP, majored in kinesiology. And so we met actually at a pit that he was coaching at the time. He had like a bunch of A-lists. He was a personal trainer for a bunch of celebs and was at this gym called Brick. And I was going to USC, found the gym, started training there, became a coach. And that's where we met in the fitness world.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah. And I guess, so did you go from fitness to Cali Coffee, or there kind of like some road that eventually you guys said, you know what, let's start our own coffee franchise?
Yeah, so we were happy. Like LA was great. We were in our 20s. It's a great place to be when you're in your 20s, but it's very easy to get sucked into that life. And it's also very socially acceptable to be like 50 or 60 out there acting like a 20-year-old. People are like, it's cool, man. It's LA. It's fine. So I was like, I'm going to get sucked into this like vortex, and I think there's going to be a timeline, especially for fitness, that industry, like she said, I had some great clients. Money was good for LA, but it was increasingly getting more and more expensive. And I just had kind of an epiphany one day where I was like, am I going to be doing this when I'm 30? Great. What about when I'm 40? What about when I'm 50? Trading time for money. So I wanted to create something passive and coffee, that root of coffee had kind of always been there. The seed was planted. And I think it was just kind of in the back of my brain, and we brought it to the forefront. And I decided one day, this is kind of the journey I want to go down, and off we rode to the sunset.
Yeah. Once he decides on something, it's like game over. So I remember the day in LA, like in his apartment, him saying like, I'm going to move back home. I'm going to get into coffee again. And I really didn't understand that whole coffee culture yet because I'm from the East Coast and it's such a coast thing, like the drive for coffee stands. So I was like, okay, like I knew Dunkin' and Starbucks, but I never really knew
Dunkin'. Team Dunkin', baby. Hell yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's really all we know on the East Coast, and so he was like, no, it's this whole culture. It's like an amazing community. And I know I can kind of take that and make it my own. And so he was like, I'm moving to Oregon. And at that time, we'd only been dating for like 3 months. And I was like, I'm coming with you. Let's do it. So
I was surprised she wanted to come, but she was all in.
Yeah.
Hell
so
yeah.
I'm agreeing with him. And he just kind of like showed me the culture. We saw a bunch of like, or I was able to see a bunch of these like kind of drive-through coffee stands. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. It's on every single corner. Like you don't have this on the East Coast.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been to like Oregon, Washington, that area where it was sort of born, but okay. So it's
I wanted to ask, so like I'm like Rose, I'm from the Northeast. I'm a big Dunkin' fan. If anyone from Dunkin' is listening to this, I would love to be a brand partner. But I'm paying attention, obviously. There's the drive-through coffee franchises. There's starting to be a few pop up. Like I found one called 7 Brew a few months ago, if you know them. But yeah, I want to key in kind of, Craig, can you kind of explain this drive-through coffee culture? 'Cause I imagine a lot of folks haven't experienced it yet if they're not from the West Coast. And Oregon is where Dutch Bros got started, right?
Exactly. Yes. 92.
Yeah.
And I was born 87. So I kind of came up along the same time. And
that's perfect.
I don't even know if they were the first one. I'm not sure, but they definitely were the ones that sort of rose, from the ashes the quickest and created kind of a revolutionary concept. And others, did similar things out in Oregon. Again, it's like you drive a mile and you may see 5 of them. You might see 7. I actually moved back to Salem, Oregon, which is right outside where I grew up. And I remember there was literally a parcel where there were 2 in the same parking lot. Like when you pulled in, you could have the option to go to either one and they kind of circle through. It's crazy, man. And some are so small that if you reach out your arms, like you're touching all walls in there and they maybe do, 50 drinks a day. Who knows? It's like you could build it in a day type of shack. And then others are these like coffee cathedrals, which is kind of what we're going for. And they just do insane amounts of volume. And they're very similar in concept where it's really not it's not a cafe. Like you don't walk in, you don't have these low lights and a guy with a mustache like twirling it around and, with like an apron on. It's like high energy, like let's go. We'll get you hyped before you get your drink type of vibe. That's what we go for.
Sick. Okay. Yeah. Like I'm just trying to. Maybe Rose can touch on it because, like, the typical, like, it's basically Starbucks or Dunkin' for the most part in the Northeast. Like, I'm just driving through, or, like, is there like a pickup window too? And
yeah, so you can either drive through or walk up in any of our stands. That's how we lay them out. But you don't come inside at all. And so when you drive through, everyone said it's like the Chick-fil-A model, but our employees do come out with an iPad to take your order. So there's no speaker box. We don't believe in that at all. Everything is very face-to-face, very personal. But our employees are just everything. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a million times. But like, if you read any of our reviews, the first thing people touch on, the last thing they touch on, and what they just like keep saying again and again is, oh my God, the employees were so nice. The customer service was insane. So when you drive up to Cali Coffee, like some super like energetic, happy looking person is going to walk out and be like, hey, Pat, what's up, man? How you doing? Like, it's your first time. Oh my God. And they'll like take you through the menu. So it's kind of an experience in itself.
Yeah.
You get to the window. Yeah. Then you get to the window. The person on window is so excited to meet you as well. Then they hand out your drink. And then the other option would just be to walk up to like the walk-up window at the front.
That's fascinating. So
and it creates like this allure almost because nobody can go inside. So they're kind of peeking in, trying to see what's going on behind the curtain. And you never really know what's behind the veil. It's just coffee magic behind the closed door. Yeah.
It's so interesting. And
we'll talk about anytime you want to come, we'll give you the grades.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So like I'm looking at the website too, and I mean, you've got, like the colors and the branding, like it's amazing. You got LA Water, Gold Rush. There's some Valentine drink that looks like a pink masterpiece. Is that part of the vibe of just all, like, if you're a drive-through coffee franchise or chain, like, because Dutch Bros, like, that's kind of what they've been known for, at least I think, right? It's like they don't just have, it's not like Dunkin', I get a medium iced black coffee and I love it. But it doesn't look anything like the drinks that I'm seeing on your website. So is that kind of part of the whole vibe and experience?
Yeah. I think, what sets us apart from like the Starbucks and the Dunkin' is just like this really fun, innovative, like you're not, what's the word we always say? We don't want to like not scare people, but intimidate. You're not intimidated by our menu. You want people to feel it. I know it looks delicious. They look at it. They're like, oh my gosh, like this looks awesome, but can I do this instead? So that's one thing about us is that you can customize anything as well. So like if you wanted to come get your black coffee, you could get it. It tastes amazing. But then someone kind of intimidated by that like coffee lingo, like the cappuccinos and, all the stuff. We don't ever want them to feel that way. So we want it to be fun and just really, attractive.
Yeah. A lot of shops kind of create this like pretentiousness. Like if you don't order it perfectly or you don't order the right thing, they kind of like give you this like, this like snarl, like, okay, you're that guy. You're ordering that drink. I get it. Like, here you go.
Yeah.
We're the opposite. We call ourselves like the anti-coffee shop, where it's like, we're really like engage the customer and the product is just happens to be coffee that we serve. But really it's about creating the experience, developing relationships that ongoing. And it's crazy because with coffee, like it's something that people do. It's very repetitive, you know, like a restaurant you're going to go to maybe once and then you go back to maybe a month later or whatever it is. But with coffee, like people find their routine and they find their shop, their drink, and they just go back to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's a very ritualistic exercise. So I completely agree. Yeah. And I do hear you on the cultural aspect. I think that's an interesting one. Cause I guess, you know, the majority of coffee drinkers aren't trying to be, you know, the venti latte expert or whatever.
Yeah.
I, for one, am not. I'm honestly a little petty. You know, it's dire circumstances if I'm in a Starbucks. But if I am, I just refuse to use the lingo. So I love that you guys just don't force that on people.
Yeah, we're like small, medium, large. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. I'm just like, I have a large. Like, I'm not playing the other game.
There's a movie where I forget what movie it is. Paul Rudd, he orders like a large, and barista's giving him a hard time. Like, oh, you mean a venti? And he's like, nah. I forget what movie it is, but people have said that all the time.
I've probably seen it. I've seen like every Paul Rudd movie, but that's a perfect scene for that guy. All right. So that's super interesting to like learn more about this whole drive-through craze. So let's talk about the franchise and like getting it started, I guess. Did you open the first corporate store in 2019?
2018. Yeah, 2018 was our Hollywood store. And then 2021 was our second.
Yeah. We have number 2, 2021, and then number 3 opened 2022 in May. Yeah. We're building 4 right now, and it's going to be a combination of corporate and franchise locations for those 4. And then we have several more in the pipeline. They're either we've signed leases, are pre-development, going through approvals in the city. Because we go the hard route. Like there's a lot of franchises who can go into an inline space that's existing. You know, they go into grocery store, right? And they find, oh, there's 1,200 square feet. Great. I'm going to lease that out. Oh, they already AC on the roof. Great. I can be open in 3 months maybe. And for us, it's very, very opposite of that. But I think the way we do it helps drive revenue because we build everything the way we want it to be built. So there's a lot of uniformity in that sense. But we became land developers really before we became business owners. When we found the Hollywood location, basically it was a piece of grass, 3/4 of an acre. And we were like, oh, how hard could this be? We'll be open in 4 months still. Yeah. We had no clue. Yeah, 2 years still fighting the city, going through all this stuff. I almost lost my mind, you know, just doing insane. Because nobody warns you for it. They don't tell you how to prep for it. And there's no defense timeline either. So you're just like, are we going to be open like ever? This is crazy. If it was the first one was very arduous. It was tough. But
Hollywood was so hard, so expensive, and so time consuming. But I think, I'm glad it was that way because we did it the furthest you could out of the gate. And we learned so much through that experience that doing Cooper City and Pembroke Pines in our next couple stores, nothing seemed as hard as that. That was just insane the way we did that. So I think it was like a blessing in disguise in that way. And like Craig said, we became land developers, we became permit runners, we became walk-in cooler builders because no one knew how to do that. So it's like we just had to learn everything. When really we just thought we were going to be making coffee. You end up doing what? Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, that is like what happens when you first jump in. And that's the benefit, right, for franchisees is now you guys have done it enough where you can walk them through what it's going to be like. I could imagine that was difficult. So I want to talk about the real estate, but before that, like just even in like your along the lines of opening up that first store, like did you guys do the branding yourself? The drinks, right? I mean, did either of you guys like? Did you just spend time in like a kitchen and just mess around? Like how did you do all of it?
Okay, yeah. Let me brag about Craig for a second, and then I'll have him expand on it. But yeah, so he taught himself. So our first location took so long that we had months of just like nothing that we were able to do. So he taught himself Illustrator, and he did all of the branding, everything himself. And so like our logos, our menu design, everything you see is him, which is just like crazy because not a lot of people do it themselves. So yeah, but you can expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, she's right. It was kind of the only saving grace to avoid just going totally insane during that waiting period. And so there were I had so many ideas, right? So many like things I wanted to get on the paper, and this is how I want this to look and that to feel, and this vibe needs to exude from that. And it was hard, I would look for graphic artists, and I was like, even if I find someone who's great at it, I don't think they're going to get, and I could have been wrong, but I was like, I don't think they're going to get what I want the first time around. And then I'm just going to get frustrated. So let me just teach myself how to do it. Then anytime I want something done, I can replicate it, create it, do it myself. And so we bootstrapped that part of it for a long time. And it was super fun. The journey of that was just an experience that we didn't expect to have happen. And it was great. Now we do have some help, and we have people that do help out, but a lot of it we did create. The drink names were super fun. That was another thing
that was just fun, bouncing names up. Like, obviously we wanted the California vibe, and it fits. Yeah, California is just such, you always said, such a sexy place to people that aren't from there, that it just works so well down here. And it had the sunshine, the palm trees, and that whole vibe. Yep. Like names like Gold Coast and Gold Rush and Hollywood, like that all just fit really well.
Yeah, little ties.
That's actually, I think, a really good lesson in branding there. And I completely agree. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey, and I ended up having a relative. My brother went to school in San Diego, so I ended up getting to visit there quite a few times. But prior to that, I mean, even still, because I've never really lived there or anything. But California is this kind of just foreign, sexy place that a lot of people, even if you don't want to be out there, it's like, it just is. It's cool. It's a cool place. So
we wanted that, just to come from it. I think it's tougher with other states maybe, but California just happened to work. So we ran with it. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. And honestly, that probably plays into why In-N-Out has such a cult, because they're so slow to expand, and they have the California vibe as well. Yes. I bet you that. Yeah, that's definitely a part of it.
And I'm huge fan of In-N-Out. I would my left arm, maybe my right arm even, to go when I were in Florida. But
yeah. We'll see what happens there. Well, so real estate wise, because this is something I realized when I discovered Seven Brew, that they're a new emerging franchise as well, drive-through coffee. The actual building is very small, which I'd imagine, right, for you guys, relative to other brick and mortar franchises where you need a couple thousand square feet. Yeah. But because it's drive-through only, you do kind of need that plot of land. It's not going into strip mall necessarily. Can you just walk through what do you need? You said before 3/4 of an acre. If a franchisee is evaluating this concept, do they need an acre of land? Is there a minimum threshold that they can find? And
we give them a range for sure. Hollywood, again, since it was our first one, became a very good data point of what works here, what's too big, what's too small. Everything with Hollywood was kind of too small. We ended up developing, it was a 3/4 acre lot, but we ended up taking it reduced to about 2/3 of an acre or a little less after we developed a shared parking lot with us and a neighboring hotel. It helped us kind of reduce some of those initial costs, which was a big factor in the beginning. So we shrank the footprint of that 3/4 acre lot down to about 2/3 of an acre and built our 600 square foot first store right there, which we soon found out, again, comparing that to Dutch Bros or Seven Brews, some of these other concepts, that's really kind of in line with what they do build or used to build. We found it to be too small. So our new prototype is significantly larger. We found a couple of things with that. Kind of moving forward, it's just that it sort of creates a legitimacy too. My theory is if you see something, even subconsciously, and you see two coffee shops here and there across the street, and one of them is just a little bit bigger, a little bit more substantial, just gives you that sort of hey, I'm here. I just think, if you've never been to either of them, you may pick that one first, and then we have a chance to capture that audience first time. Another thing is we really did find a huge cost difference in building a 600 square foot building versus a 1,200 square foot building. The economy of scale really doesn't change a whole lot. because our plumbing's the same, our electrical's the same, mechanical's the same. We're just a little more block, and you could really fit that same building on the same plot of land. So we do go a little bit bigger than the other players, but as far as like the parcel size goes, we want stacking is the main thing. So it depends on the shape of the lot, but our sort of magic numbers, we want to make sure we have space from the window where they actually get their coffee in the drive-thru to where that line will be like in the main like public pathway. We want like 18 to 20 cars or more. It's kind of our minimum. So anything less than that, we have to really take a closer look and see, hey, if we think this store is going to be doing top line revenue of like 2.5 million plus, like, are we going to get in trouble with the city because our line's going to be out the road? We are fast, but it becomes an issue. It can become an issue.
Oh yeah. Holy crap. I didn't even realize that. Yeah.
It's good, but
so this is kind of showing like, I've never opened a drive-through coffee concept. So like those questions were in my head, but I guess as you probably opened that back to like your story with the first store, these are probably the things you're like, shit, I have to answer that. Wow. So you need it to have 18. So the drive-through can be at least like 18 to 20 cars deep potentially.
Yeah. Only weekends. That happens constantly on the weekends, especially that there'll be that many waiting. So that's, yeah.
Is that like, I was just going to ask that, like wait time. Is it super long? Cause like, for instance, in Trader Joe's, there's usually like, this is totally different. And I'm just thinking about my grocery shopping on Sundays, but like in Trader Joe's, like the line, you'll look at it and be like, oh my God, it's long, it's zigging and zagging, but they actually move you through it like within 5 minutes. It's really not bad at all. So is it kind of like that for you guys where it's a long line, but it's not like if I saw 20 cars at Dunkin', I'm not stopping. That's going to take me an hour.
Well, that's why speed is such a huge part of what we do, because we need to instill confidence in the consumer, our customers, to be like, hey, if there are 20 cars in line, because I've been there before, I know if I'm that 21st car, I know I'll probably be out of there in like 20 minutes, which is still a long time to wait, but they'll have an idea, like a reference point. So that's kind of our target is once we get orders taken in, the car should be moving like every minute. And that's kind of a good target.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the worst. It's just when you're in a drive-through line and you're just like not moving.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Also like from a franchisee's perspective, that's a great problem to have if you have a bunch of cars in the drive-through, because that means people want to buy your product.
Yeah.
So yeah, kudos to you guys for kind of getting to that level. Well, so when you guys kind of jumped into franchising, which that's like within the last year, right? You've like begun franchising and offering it to
like it's this month almost. It was the month that we were like, okay, let's do it. Maybe in December last year, we decided to.
Yeah, we were kind of anti at the beginning for several reasons. I don't know if you guys care about it or not, but we didn't want to do it at first. And then we realized what was the route for us to go that made the most sense now.
So I'm interested in that because I think part of what I try to do, which obviously you guys are franchising now. So, for a lot of, I think, outsiders typically have like preconceived notions of a franchise, and they just think of McDonald's and royalties and that, it's a bad model and this or that. But yeah, so what were kind of, I guess, what was pushing you away from it at first?
It was mainly just, we're so obsessed with every little detail. Like we would do psychotic things at the beginning, we still do, but like when Cali was being built, as an example, the first time, like I would go down there at like 3 a.m. when there was no roof. There was just like concrete walls. I'd bring a broom and I'd just start sweeping it out. It made no sense. Absolutely no sense. You're so obsessed. Yeah, we're like, this does nothing good for us. But that's a level of detail we're at, just to give you an idea of like where our heads were. And then the thought of like having someone who had that much kind of control over it, even though obviously everything's regulated, we can come in and say, hey, you're trying to serve, like, what is this? You can't have that. We still were just worried about it, that people would not get the perfect experience. That was kind of our main
quality control.
Yeah, quality control is everything.
Yeah.
But then we evolved, we grew, we realized, look, we have so many amazing employees now who can fill that role, who can be our quality control team, our regional management team, who can make sure everything's running. Because our ideal in any franchise really, right, is that if you as a consumer go to a store, you don't know if it's a corporate store or a franchise store. It should just be like, I went there, I had a great experience, the product was awesome, and I left. We're stoked about it. Like that's
we just had to, like, that's part of our journey, is just letting go of that like perfectionist in us, and like that obsession that every single detail has to be perfect, has to be done by us. We just had to learn to let go a little bit of that in order to grow, and just know that every time we grow, we're just like sprinkling that Cali magic, in a different community, and it's worth it every single time. So otherwise, there's other ways to grow, but for us, it just made it.
We kind of said too, like, yeah, I mean, every Cali that opens in a community, we've seen the impact it has on every community. Every store we have, like, there's just so much buzz around, and people send us the craziest messages about how it's changed their lives. Like, what they post is truly incredible. And so, like, we're very proud of that. That's probably the number one thing we're most proud of, is like the impact we have on individuals, on communities. And so we're like, I'm a firm believer in, if you can recreate little ripples, like a lot of little ripples, it's more effective than doing like one big ripple somewhere else. And so we're like, well, every store that opens, every Cali that opens in every city, we're going to be able to replicate that. It's going to make a difference, on some levels. So franchising was the way for us to do it, because we just didn't have enough capital to really do it by ourselves. And then we met a lot of our franchisees that we have signed on are amazing. And some are operators, some are more kind of behind the scenes, and but they're all very open to learning. They're all very excited. They're eager to learn the way, and they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They like our wheel, and they're like, let me hop on that and help you get to where you guys are doing. Yeah, it's awesome.
No, I think it raises a good point, in that just like franchising, it's a very like low capital way to expand. And that's the reality for like brick and mortar businesses, is if you have some type of proof of concept and you want to grow, you have three options basically, which is, take on debt if you can get a loan, which is stressful and, risky. And then venture capital, which like Starbucks, Howard Schultz is famous for, I think he got rejected by like 200 plus VCs before he got a yes to expand Starbucks.
Wow.
And then the other route, right, is franchising, where you offload and outsource the capital to all your franchise operators. So, it's a beautiful model for that reason. But I'm curious. So, I totally get the like obsession with the brand, and like you guys just obviously have invested so much time and effort into it, that it probably is. It's scary, right, to kind of let someone else run it, when you're franchising. But my take on it all, and I think actually so we had a founder, her name's Brianna Keefe. She runs a franchise and founded a franchise called Toastique, out of Washington, D.C. And she had like similar fears. She's like, I don't want to franchise this. Like, this is my baby. Like, I can't necessarily, it's going to be hard to trust someone to run it as a franchisee. But she kind of realized after like looking into it more that the incentives actually align. I think like the kind of caveat or the disclaimer by the asterisks is like, as long as you kind of have like a smart, savvy operator. But like the game changer is that if someone's putting up, however much money it costs to build a franchise, like they're going to want, like they have their own skin in the game where they really want to do things the way you're telling them to do it, because that's how they're going to make money. So that's where I think, if you dig a level deeper for, folks just evaluating franchises, that's where like it actually, everyone thinks of like this scene in The Founder from the movie, if you've seen that, which is about the Ray Kroc from McDonald's, where like he goes to his first franchisee's location in Arizona, and they're selling like fried chicken and stuff. Yeah. And he's like, what the heck? Like, we need burgers, like burgers. But like, that's a little bit Hollywood. Like 9 out of 10 times, you get a smart person, they're not going to try to do things differently. So yeah, did you guys kind of eventually come to that, or was it something else that just got you over the hump?
I think we were super lucky to get a lot of people that applied initially. I think the first week we announced we were franchising, we had to go over like 300 applications in a week or two.
Yeah, it was crazy.
On a ton of interest, and then it was just trusting our gut and like knowing the type of person that we wanted to take over it. And we do have a couple that is opening a single unit up in Stewart, and they are like the dream, like me and Craig like copy paste us. They're gonna put like their heart they're like moving their family up here. I mean, they are just gonna be phenomenal, and we have so much trust in that. But that's very hard to find. So then the other way that we were confident was, like you said, when someone was putting a lot of money and putting a lot of skin into the game, then that just makes you feel like confident that they're going to be, they're going to care about it and do a good job with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, well, I mean, 300 applications in a week. That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, there's emerging franchisors on this, and there's probably folks listening to this that maybe want to start a franchise one day. I mean, what was like how'd you market the opportunity? Like, was it literally just in your store and on your website, or?
You won't believe. Yeah.
That was our
Instagram.
We did one Instagram post, and that was it. And people had reached out before that, but not a ton. People would come by and be like, hey, I love what you're doing here. Like, are you guys looking at a franchise? And we were just like, nope, not now. Kind of shitty. And then once we came around, which now, again, we're totally sold on the franchise model. We fully believe in it. And we think it can be a beautiful, beautiful thing for everyone. Then we were just like, hey, let's throw it out there. We gotten everything together to where we could present it. We'd gone through, months with our attorney with that. And once we announced it, the floodgates just kind of opened. But we really haven't marketed aside from that. And people always tell us like, yeah, you can go to like trade shows and all these kind of things. But we just, now we don't have a need to, but
And we're lucky. And I think that speaks to like the brand. And I think it speaks to how good of a job Craig did in creating something that out of the gate people thought was a franchise. Like they thought our first location was a franchise and we were just franchisees. And they're like, oh, it started in California. Is that where it's from? How many locations? And we were like, no, this is it. This is our baby. This is the first one. And so I think when Craig was in the beginning, when he was like doing his the marketing material and the logo and the way it looked, he wanted it to look that professional. He wanted people to think that, and that's exactly what happened. And I think that helped kind of build interest over the last couple of years of like, man, how do I get into this? And then when we finally released it,
I became kind of obsessed with branding. So I wanted ours to be like better than everybody else's, even though I'm this amateur, just learned how to do this kind of stuff guy trying to put it all together. But that was always the goal, was to just make it look as professional as possible, as legitimate as possible. And I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but just create that. And then everything kind of fell into place behind it.
No, I mean, dude, both of you guys, like, seriously, I'm not just saying this. I mean, I basically, for a living, just look at franchise brands all day. And, I mean, your branding is phenomenal. So you got a real talent for it.
We do I don't want to distract. We have a great web guy. We've got a lot of people who help us now, but
Well, yeah, I mean, I tell you, it drives me crazy. Sometimes, I land on websites for franchises that they're not even secure. They don't even have that little like lock icon. And I'm just like, come on, man. Like there's little things like that.
We go out to eat, and like if we go out to eat, a menu has like a typo like on the menu. He's like, how can they know if it like drives
or the spacing's inconsistent?
The same thing if it's not consistent. He's like super.
Wow. I love how in deep you guys are. That's great. That's amazing. But I do also the proof is in the pudding in that the fact that as soon as you open it up for franchising, you had just a long line of people waiting already. I mean, that speaks of, to me, it's like, you're clearly like resonating with your customers at a minimum, because you're basically turning them into wannabe franchise owners. Like they love your brand so much, and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So that's just amazing validation.
I'm not gonna lie, like that was kind of nice, because we posted it and we weren't expecting much, but I was, deep down, you're kind of like, man, I hope people actually care about this. And so it was kind of validating, like, hey, what we're doing, there's got to be something to it. Let's keep rocking it. It was inspiring. So I agree with you.
That's fantastic. And so since you're pretty new into the franchising aspect, but like, how's that been? And I'm curious from like your guys' perspective as founders and operators of the corporate stores, but now it's like you have this whole new division basically. And I often, if founders or people looking to franchise their concept, I kind of say is like, hey, it's almost like starting a second business, because it's a totally different ball game of finding operators, needing a CRM and doing franchise sales and marketing and walking people through what's typically like a 2 to 6 month sales cycle. So yeah, what's that been like? Just talk about that, I guess.
I mean, you're 100% right. Like our roles in the company have vastly shifted, because we worked in the store so many days in a row, and that was the grind, right? Every day. And we loved it. Like we started this company because I fell in love with making drinks talking to customers, serving people. Like the full interaction was why we started the business. It wasn't to build this, giant company that is everywhere. And so once you start to shift, you're like, dang, like our roles need to shift, because if we don't do that, who's going to do it? So we're so lucky to have the crew that we have, like the employees we have. I think we have over 140 employees now amongst 3 stores. We're close to it. We have seasonal ones because they go to college. Yeah, but they come back, and there's so many people who have I'm so impressed with them, because not only are they're just the best, in general, but they have, a lot of them have seen where Cali can go. They're like, okay, you hear so many stories about companies at the ground level and where people can go if they get into the ground level and all that. And so a lot of our employees they were sort of going to school, but they didn't know why, or they were in a job that they didn't like. And so they came over here to try this out. And then they've kind of realized and asked us hey, can I grow with you guys? I don't know what I want to do in 10 years. What if I'm with Cali? And we're like, you're awesome. Yes. I want to 30 more. And just building an army, a soldier, a team of excited young people who can do it, So that's amazing to us. And then it creates more opportunities. So now, like you said, it creates a franchising. Well, now we can have job opportunities for these people who are I want to make serious cash. We're there are going to be slots where you can do that. Just hang in there. We're growing all the time, and we're going to need people to fill these roles. And it's pretty incredible, that aspect of it.
And that's, like he said, it's allowed us to finally step off of making drinks and be so confident that really nothing has changed. You read our reviews now of people just raving about the customer service, or they'll shoot us an Instagram message to say, hey, Cali Coffee, I was just at the shop. I was having a really bad day, and the girl taking my order noticed, and she bought my drink. It's just I broke down in tears because that.
No way. I've never heard of that before. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's that all the time, and we're just God, that's those are our babies. That's our staff. It's
so proud.
So proud, because it's we don't need to be there, and they're just killing it and doing exactly what we hope it and dream happens every single moment in Cali. So they're incredible. Yeah.
Sounds, yeah. I mean, I want to go to one now. This sounds like an awesome place.
I'm going to buy you a ticket.
It's the best. But yeah, it starts from just leading by example of the last couple of years, and just they've learned the ways, and they get so excited, and it's such a rewarding job for them that when they come to work, they're so excited to make people's day and make them smile. It's just the best.
Yeah, and I mean, coffee is especially if it's the morning and you haven't had one yet, cool. That's kind of you take that first sip and you're like, okay, it's going to be, I'm okay.
Yeah.
We're therapists, honestly, for people.
Yeah.
We have customers that come 3 or 4 times every day, mainly to talk to us and talk to our staff. And our staff, someone will pull up and they'll say hey, how did Jimmy do on his test? How was his baseball game? They know everything. And
no way. And that's in a drive-through interaction?
Oh, yeah. In 2 minutes, it's so the best conversation you'll ever have. Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
It's an art, because they some of our employees are so good at talking to people that they can go on forever. They could carry on a 20-minute conversation with every person, but there's 13 cars behind that person. So they have to know how to start a conversation, how to keep it going, but also how to kind of wrap it up, because we do need to still go fast to get the product out too.
And that's in our training manual of the balance of that, because he's right. They love talking with people, and they care so much. They're not just saying, how's your day because they have to. They're saying, how's your day because they want to know how their day is, and they want to know what's going on in their life. But then Craig said they have to kind of look at the line and be okay, and kind of wrap it up. So it's an art. Yeah.
Damn. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I've just never, I'm not, I would categorize just broadly, you guys fall into the QSR, you're a quick service type concept, right? And that level of service and hospitality is, other than Chick-fil-A, it's pretty much unheard of.
So, especially in South Florida, I think that's part of really what made us blow up, was people noticing that.
That's really true. So our service, I think, would be top notch anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. But the contrast between what is considered normal or acceptable in Florida, man, it's crazy.
Really?
Yeah, it's almost like you go to a place and half the time you're doing them a favor by going there. And in Oregon, in California, the West Coast, it's just sort of customer service is mandatory. You got to do it. And then we elevated, to the next degree. But here, they're so used to just being treated poorly or sort of oh, you have to service by being here as a patron. That they're Like we used to get all the time. We'd be in line taking orders. They'd be like, okay, first of all, you guys are not from here, right?
No,
And it's like,
you're not.
we're like, no.
No
Yeah.
way. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the East Coast way. We're just pretty mean to each other. I don't know why.
No.
That's
Well,
like
they're used to it, but they appreciate once they get service. They're not like, they're kind of weirded out at first. Like, okay, what's wrong with you? Why are you asking me?
yeah. It's like, what's the catch here? Is this going to cost $100 or something? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And by time, but then they come back the next day and they're like a little more peppy and they're kind of like a little more engaging. And then by a weekend, you turn them and they're like,
Yeah,
you know,
then you got them.
couple.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Wow.
That's cool.
All right. Well, and I guess just on the note of like your guys' day to day, like, have you removed yourself for the most part from like actually being in the store because like you're on the phone with franchisees, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, sadly, I'm pretty much, his birthday was last week and he had to like beg for a shift on his birthday.
I think it worked. They gave it to me.
Yeah,
Our managers.
Nice.
We need hours. Our staff needs hours. Like they are the ones that should be there, like in the shop making the drinks. We're in the shop every day, still just stopping by. Like we walk in, we're like, "What's up, man?" And we're so involved still because we live within 20 minutes of every single one of our shops. So we're still hands on in that way. But yeah, we're not in the store making drinks now. So it's the emails and the phone calls and meeting up with franchisees and going over different things operationally, visiting stores that are being built and almost open. So every day is kind of different, which is amazing because him and I can't sit still for more than 5 seconds. So that's how it has to run.
Yeah.
Transition out was kind of odd. Like there was a time when we were like, we needed to be stepping out of the business and working more on the business, and it was a hard pill to swallow. And there would be times where though after a shift, like we worked like an 8 to 12 morning shift. And by like 12:15 when we got off, we'd check our phones and we had all these missed calls, all these missed emails. And some of them were pressing, some could wait, but some couldn't. And it's like our value really became more on being there to answer those expeditiously versus being there where we could have an employee create a job for someone else and they can do just as good a job as we can and be there and do the same thing. And then we can do the emails. Because again, if Rose and I are answering those emails or those calls, nobody else is. And so we sort of had to graduate to that. I don't want to say graduate, but just shift our role into something.
It's such a shift. I always say it's like first you start a business and then you build a company. It's like that's the shift.
Nice. That's a good line. That's a really good line.
Yeah, that's the stage that we're in right now, and it's so exciting. It's just the best. It's all.
That was fire.
I know she killed her with that one. See about it. Yeah.
Sorry, I just like made it not cool by calling it out. But anyway, all right. I mean, guys, seriously, this is it's been a fun conversation. Like, we didn't talk financials, but all the what I would call like qualitative data. I mean, it sounds off the charts. So, congrats to you guys and what you've done. I'm super excited to kind of see how you guys do over the next few years. And thanks so much for coming on. Where can folks who want to follow, your brand or you guys individually, is there any good spots online where they can do that?
Yeah. So our website, calicoffee.com you can find all sorts of information, our menu, locations, and franchising information too is down in the footer on the website. And then our Instagram is where you'll see most of the fun stuff. And that's just at Cali Coffee.
Sweet. Okay. Craig and Rose, thanks again. Everyone, we'll plug those links in the show notes to their website and to the Instagram. And Craig and Rose, we'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. It's been fun.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to Franchise Empires. We're coming to you soon with actionable insights to take the next step on your franchise journey. So make sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen.